I know a guy who just turned 62 and retired with nearly $1 million in his investment account. Now, what reminds me of his story is that he didn't start with money. 3000美元. That is all he had when he was 30. But he invested $50 a month, and 32 years later, the market did real work for him. That is what we're talking about today. Not big winners or dramatic deals that make headlines, but the minimum amount needed to trigger a compound effect that changes your entire life. Because the obstacle isn't how much money you have. It is the voice in your head that says you're small. Contribution doesn't matter. It is completely wrong. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly how much you need to start. And I bet it is less than you think. Let's just stop talking and talk about what compound interest is. It is not a mysterious force. It only works for $100,000 and $200,000. It is a very simple math, and the formula looks like this. A equals P times 1 sine r divided by N, all raised to a power of NT. I know mathematical symbols aren't exciting, but what do they represent? That is everything. Your starting amount becomes P. Your interest rate becomes R. Its compounding frequency becomes N. Your time period becomes T. When you pass this math, you get your ending amount. That is it. Here are the things that really matter to your current situation. Gold is about $4,700 an ounce, which we recorded in April 2026. And you can buy a tenth of an ounce for $470. Gold ownership starts to work for you right away. 10 years later, when you accumulate 5 ounces, it is not now. The minimum amount you really need is not a magic number like $10,000 or $50,000. It is just the amount you can contribute each month, and it doesn't affect your lifestyle. Some $5, some $500. No matter where you are, there is no shame at first. Let me give you a real example from the calculation of bank interest rates just released this month. You have saved $1,000 and deposited it into an account, accounting for 3.85% of API's revenue, which is realistic in the April 2026 environment. Now, here is where it gets interesting. If you add only $50 a month for 2 years, less than $2 a day, you are not just earning $1,200 in interest on your donation. You can earn $125 in interest. The extra $125 comes from your own money. It is a compounding effect. Also extended to 30 years instead of 2. Also $50 a month. Your donation totals $18,000, but your account will grow to nearly $32,000, an additional $14,000. Here is your money. This is your money, and you never have to work for it. This is where most people's minds collapse. They looked and said $50 a month was nothing. Never mind. Compounding doesn't care what you think. This is not judgment. It just works silently backstage, month after month, year after year, and no matter what you think, math is math. Now we're talking to gold watchers, and let's see what is actually happening in the market right now, because timing and context are important to your decision. When we record this, gold is just under $4,700 an ounce. There has been much discussion about whether gold will reach $6,000 this year. Some analysts believe so, while others believe that the trading range is between 4,200 and 5,000. What I want to tell you is that volatility is the name of the game, which is not a problem for long-term investors. This is actually an opportunity. When something is unstable, the average dollar spent becomes your best friend. Dollar cost averaging, DTA, refers to regular fixed amount investments, regardless of price. This is the basic investment material, which is actually designed for this situation. Think of it this way. You commit to investing $150 a month in gold, whether it trades at $4,200 an ounce or $4,900 an ounce. Some months you get more gold. Some months you get less. Throughout the cycle, you average costs, eliminating emotional decisions about whether now is the right time to buy. You're buying anyway. Mathematically, in the long run, DCA trumps every attempt to time the market. Morgan Stanley's real estate and market analysis released in 2026 shows that this principle applies to all asset classes. When prices go up, one-time investments look great on spreadsheets. When you actually experience volatility, the average dollar cost looks better because you accumulate at multiple price points. One thing nobody told you: some gold ownership is democratizing precious metal investment in 2026. You don't have to save another $2,000 for a half ounce. You can buy a few ounces from $20. Some platforms now allow you to buy a car every month, but you need to know what you're actually buying. When you buy fraction gold, you see three options. First, a scrap or note that actually exists and is stored somewhere. The second is the share of gold ETF, which is slightly different because you hold the share of the fund holding gold. Third, claim the digital ownership of gold on your behalf through a specific platform. Each option has different tax implications, different storage costs, different liquidity profiles, which are more important for some investments because your account is smaller. If you pay a 2% annual storage fee for a $10,000 gold position, that is $200 a year. The $5,000 position is $100. The $500 position is $10 a year. You need to do math. Here is what I saw in this market as of April 2026. The smart investors I spoke to didn't put all their money into gold. Even those who were bullish on it, they are doing something more practical. They hold gold as a core holding, possibly 10 to 20% of the balanced portfolio, and include a small consistent contribution to the average dollar cost. This dispels emotions. That removes the pressure to choose the perfect moment. It actually makes math useful to you. One analyst analyzed a scenario that applied specifically to people in their 50s and 60s. People with 25 years left before retirement contribute $200 a month to a diversified portfolio of 30% gold or precious metals, 40% stocks, and 30% bonds. Historically, this ratio has compounded to about 7%, 8%, and 9% a year, considering volatility and normal market cycles. You invest $60,000 in 25 years and grow to about $400,000. I'm conservative here. This is based on consistent contributions, not disposable. No perfect entry point was chosen. Just show up month after month, giving time to do the work. Now let's start a real conversation. because the minimum compound interest you need is not a financial problem, but a psychological problem, and the enemy is right in your ear. A behavioral finance study published at the 2026 Economics Conference explored why people do not invest. And the first obstacle is not a lack of money. This is called a psychological minimum, any amount a person decides to need before investing. People tell themselves stories. I started investing $1,000. I got promoted and started working. I started with my kids in college. When the economy stabilized, I started. Each of them is self-destructive, even if it doesn't feel like it. Here is what happened. Some people say I can save 50 yuan a month, and then they think, but 50 yuan does matter. Too small. I should wait until I can save $2 or $3. So they did nothing. 5 years of zero investment, waiting for conditions that may never come. Meanwhile, who spent $50? That man now has 5 years of compound interest. Even if the returns are modest, they are already ahead. Known in financial psychology as the $1,000 barrier, it is ubiquitous between the ages of 35 and 60. You're mature enough to know that money matters, but you often have competing financial obligations. Maybe you're helping your kids get into college. Maybe you're supporting your aging parents. Maybe you're starting a business. You look at your available capital and think that is not enough trouble. The idea is mathematically wrong. Let me tell you why it is true. If someone invested $10,000 in a mutual fund with an annual return of 6%, it would grow to $57,000 in 30 years. That is almost 6 times their initial investment. Now, let's do it another way. The same person, but not one, time invested $100 a month for 30 years. Donations totaled $36,000. Depending on the frequency of compounding, that number will grow to about $95, negative 100,000. Wait, let it all take root. The $360,000 donation was about 10 times what a one-time investor put in, but ended up with only about twice the final balance. Why? The former investor has time to work for them. In addition to the initial $10,000, they have 29 years of compound interest. That is why getting up early or even a little is better than getting up late with a lot of money. But it is part of a plan to weaken the majority who never started. They were too busy. In fact, there is a psychological technique that financial advisors have been using for years. This is called anchoring. You don't think I invest $50 a month, but you think I invest $50 a month to build financial security for my family. I don't buy fraction gold. You think I'll build a meaningful inflation hedge in 5 years. Why is this important? When meaningful addition occurs, the brain processes scarcity and abundance differently. When you associate your small contribution with a goal that really matters to you, your granddaughter's education, your ability to retire, your freedom from financial stress, your psychological barrier collapses. $50 feels like it is not enough. It felt like action. This is another practical obstacle most people face. Complexity. You want to start investing. You have cash on hand. But the process involves opening an account, learning about different types of investments, calculating fees, understanding taxes, and choosing a platform. By the time you finish your research, you're tired and you've convinced yourself to give up. The solution is simple. Choose a good option, not the theoretical best option in the universe or the cheapest option you can find. You only verified one reliable option: access to gold through reputable ETFs. A balanced fund either way. Use it. In fact, you're actually involved in something more important than first order optimization, because first order optimization is too complex to ever happen. I read Morgan Stanley's February 2026 analysis of investor behavior in volatile markets. What bothers me is that those who invest automatically accumulate capital, regardless of capital flows, and continue to invest in volatility. Who has to start each purchase manually. Many people sell stocks during the downturn because they pay too much attention. The minimum amount you need is not a number. That is the motivation. It is a preliminary decision, automatic. So your mind is so open and incoherent that you can't persuade yourself to give up. Now let S be specific. I am talking to people in their 50s and 60s here because your schedule changes everything. Scenario 1, you are 55 and plan to retire at 70 with 15 years left. You can invest $200 a month. That is $36,000 in 15 years. In a balanced portfolio with an annual historical return of about 6.5%, that ratio is about $59,000. That may not sound like a home run retirement number, but it is the extra money you won't have. Yes, when you retire, you can add thousands of dollars a year, but it is an interesting place for gold-focused investors. You take the same $200 a month commitment and invest it in some gold accumulation through some kind of gold-backed ETF, which is fully liquid and reasonably priced. Gold has historically appreciated during inflation, with inflation around 3% as of April 2026, and there is still debate about whether gold will remain there or climb again. If gold appreciates by an average of 4% a year over your 15-year accumulation period, which is actually less than we've seen recently, your contribution of $36,000 will compound to about $65,000 to $42,000, depending on the specific compounding frequency and price point you accumulate. What you're holding now is a real inflation hedge. The $65,000 gold at retirement is an insurance policy. It is liquid. Stability, yes. Scenario 2, you are 60 and 10 years away. You can donate $300 a month, 36,000 donations. At an annualized rate of 6.5%, it would be about $43,000 at retirement. Here is what no one told you. You are 60 and 10, but you can only pay $75 a month because you are still paying for your grandchildren. That was a $9,000 donation, about $11,200 compounded 6.5%. Was the conference itself a breakthrough? No. But does your discipline bring free money? Yes. If you don't care if the amount is too small, is it better than $0? Sure. Now let's look back. You are under 60. You are 45. You have 20 years left. The same $75 a month. The $18,000 donation totaled about $32,000. Double the final amount with the same contribution just because you have 10 years left. That is what financial advisors mean by starting early. They don't mean starting big. They mean start. Now, I'm showing these examples because I want you to notice something important. Whether you are $50 or $300 a month, whether you are 10 or 30, motivation is the same. Compounding is happening. How much compound interest depends on time and yield, which cannot be controlled. The market is the market, but you can control the starting point. You can control consistency. This is where dollar cost averaging becomes your strongest weapon, especially gold in 2026. You promise $100 a month in gold in a low cost car. In the first year, gold traded between 4,200 and 4,600, and your average is in the third year. Suppose it soared to 5,200. What you used to buy now looks great. In the fifth year, the assumption falls back to 4,800. You're still buying. Throughout the volatility cycle, you are building positions. This works because you end up buying more at low prices and less at high prices. It is not sexy. This is not a story of seizing the market and getting rich, but it makes mathematical sense, and more important, it actually works because you're doing it. You don't sit there waiting for the perfect moment. Russell Investments S dollar cost average analysis, which compares one-time investments and DCAs in different market cycles from 1990 to 2020, remains fully correlated. One-time investments beat DCA in 63% of scenarios. But these scenarios all occurred after prices bottomed out. When did investors not know that the bottom had reached the bottom? Uncertain, real time. In most cases, DCAs outperform or match lump sum payments. Think about what that means. You don't know if gold will climb to 6,000 points this year or fall back to 4,200 points. No one did. But if you automatically invest $100 a month, that is okay. You win in the probability distribution. Take another specific demographic example. People over 55 get 401k or the equivalent and have been paying the minimum wage for years. Now they have $30,000 sitting there. They can also set aside $150 a month after taxes. They want to know, should I put more money into 401k and start buying gold? Or should I diversify into stocks? The answer is yes. All this is good, but start with automation. Apportion $150, 50 to 401k. Through the DCA program, $50 is converted into gold. 50 entered diversified equity funds. Now, you're not putting all the pressure on yourself to make the right choices. You're building multiple asset classes automatically. Your brain doesn't have to make that decision every month. Just let it happen. I want to show you something that really prompted me to make this video, because when you see it visualize compound interest data becomes absurd. Let us create a simple model with 3 people in the same starting position at age 40, all of whom can commit to a $100 monthly investment vehicle with an average annual income of 6% for 30 years until they reach age 70. People ages 40 to 70 invest 100 yuan a month, totaling $36,000. The final balance was about $80,000. individual B became nervous. He started work at 4 to 5 instead. From 45 to 70, he spends the same $100 or $30,000 a month in donations. The final balance was about $61,000. C waited longer. He invested the same amount from age 50 to 70, contributing $24,000. The final balance was about $41,000. Now, take a closer look at this. Individual A ended up with $80,000. Individual C ended up with $41,000. That is almost twice the ultimate wealth, except for a decade. The difference was $12,000, but the final balance was $39,000. Spread. These are compounding effects. It is working time. Here is what really breaks through the psychological barrier when I show this to people. One does not have to be richer. You don't need to be smarter. There is no need for higher returns. He just started working. Now, given the current environment, let's apply this specifically to gold. Gold is currently priced at $4,700 an ounce, and you can invest $100 a month in low-cost tools to buy some gold, which accumulates at different price points as the price fluctuates. I can't predict gold prices. No one can. But historically, when you consider that gold is crushed in some years, flat or short-term depreciation in some years, the average annual appreciation rate of gold is about 4-5%. Using a conservative annual appreciation rate of 4.5% from 56 to 66, you invest $24,000 over 10 years. Your gold position grows to about $38,000 to $42,000, depending on the specific compounding frequency and price point you buy. Is this wealth creation? For most people ages 55 to 60, that is true. This is a meaningful position against inflation in your portfolio. This is the asset you own, not the debt you are paying interest on. But let's go further. You are 45 now. From 45 to 70, you spend the same $200 a month. That was 60,000 donations. At an annual appreciation rate of 4.5%, the value of gold will grow to about $110,000 to $120,000 after retirement. That is not good. This is the real hedge in the inflation-protected portfolio. Remember, this is not using any special knowledge. No special stock selection function is used. It does not rely on market timing. As long as contribution plus time plus compound interest is equal to the result. Math doesn't care about your age, no matter how you start, whether you make $50 or $500 a month. The mechanisms are consistent. Time times consistency times compound equals wealth. Most financial advisors won't tell you that because it is not sexy. The vast majority of ordinary people's wealth accumulation is not generated by investment skills. It is done by getting started, staying consistent, and staying invested. So, one study after another by Pioneer, Fidelity, and Morgan Stanley shows that sustaining investment and sustained contribution far outweighs stock selection and timing. Investors who invested regularly and consistently during the 2008 financial crisis were about 2.5 to 3 times richer than investors who panicked and cashed out. the same market, different disciplines, that is intensifying over time, including the recession. So what is the minimum amount you need? This is really the minimum discipline you need. It is an automated, consistent willingness to believe that time is a burden. You've heard it all. The math is solid. The examples are clear. The combinations work. But knowing and doing are different things. So I want you to do something first. Choose your car. In theory, it is not the perfect car. Good car. If you are interested in gold, you can study the 3 major platforms, gold ETFs, such as GLD or IAU, allocate physical gold through services, such as Gold Money, or your brokerage issues some gold. Choose one. Done. Second, set the amount and be honest. What can you contribute each month without affecting your lifestyle? Not what you think you should contribute. What would you do? If it is $25, that is the number. If it is $500, that is the number. Third, automation. Withdraw it from your checking account before you see it on payday. Invisibility means your brain doesn't speculate about it every month. Fourth, forget to check your balance once or twice a year. That is it. You don't check once a week and panic about volatility. You shop at the wrong time. You're building. Fifth, resist the impulse to optimize. You will be tempted. You LLC a new investment vehicle or some strategy that sounds better, and you LL get a 5% return, and you LL wonder if you can get a 7% return elsewhere. Boycotts. Consistency trumps optimization every time. 6, know your schedule. If you start working today at 55 and plan to retire at 70, you have 15 years left. If gold is rising at 4% and you contribute $150 a month, you are considering building a position of $40,000 to $45,000 before retiring. Is this a change in itself? On its own? No. As part of a diversification strategy? Yes. Actually, the minimum amount required for compounding to work is not a dollar number, but a decision. It is a decision to start with everything you have and let the mechanisms do the work. Thank you for your attention. If that resonates with you, click the subscribe button, because there will be more about building wealth next week.